As heaven and earth trembled, divine sages revealed themselves, sacred beasts descended, and a single cultivator stood at the center of a war that would decide the fate of two worlds. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. With a face as still as carved stone, Han Li lifted his hand. A streak of azure light shot forth from his sleeve, swelling in the blink of an eye into a colossal shield that met the descending brick head-on. Boom! Yellow radiance and blue light collided violently, intertwining in mid-air as brick and shield locked in a dead stalemate. Seeing the shield recoil toward him under the impact, Han Li merely extended a finger and pointed. A flash of blue light erupted, and the shield abruptly came to a halt. At the same moment, the massive brick spun around the shield like a vengeful star and smashed straight toward Han Li once more. Han Li let out a cold smile. His figure vanished again in a burst of silver light. The yellow-robed old man's heart skipped a beat. Without hesitation, he raised his hand and summoned a small purple flag. The instant it appeared, it unfurled into a roiling purple cloud that enveloped his body completely. At that very moment, a peal of thunder rang out to his left. Han Li reappeared. The moment his figure solidified, he opened his mouth and spat out a tiny sword toward the purple cloud. Almost simultaneously, a layer of deep blue flames surged forth, engulfing the blade. The old man's composure shattered at the sight of the azure flames dancing atop the sword. Terror flooded his features as his body blurred, shifting 3 meters away in a desperate attempt to evade the strike. Yet contrary to all expectations, a woman appeared behind him without the slightest warning, as though she had already foreseen his every move. She raised her hand, releasing an azure orb that streaked forward like a bolt of heavenly lightning, slamming directly into the spell warrior. Her appearance was utterly soundless, ghost-like, as if she had emerged from the void itself. The coordination between her and Han Li was flawless, their attack precise and merciless. Even with his keen spiritual sense, the old man had sensed the danger a heartbeat in advance. But at such close range, escape was impossible. His only option was to pour every last drop of magic power into the purple cloud surrounding him. He still held a shred of confidence in the defensive treasure that cloud had formed from. A deafening explosion erupted. Golden and azure light flared brilliantly, swallowing the sky. When the radiance faded, the purple cloud had collapsed entirely. The old man inside was left in a pitiful state, half his body obliterated, the remaining half consumed by raging azure flames. Shock, disbelief, and seething fury twisted his features as he clenched his teeth. With a thunderous boom, his body detonated. A blinding streak of yellow light shot into the sky, revealing an inch-tall nascent soul bearing the exact likeness of the old man's face. Realizing the situation was beyond salvage, he decisively abandoned his physical body, fleeing as a nascent soul in a desperate bid for survival. But Han Li had already anticipated this outcome. Just as the nascent soul attempted to escape, Han Li vanished once more in a flash of silver light and reappeared directly in its path. With a sharp wave of his hand, a golden net erupted forth amid a clap of thunder. At the same time, a small sword wreathed in blue flames shot from his sleeve. The nascent soul's face contorted with terror upon seeing Han Li. In sheer panic, it spat out an inch-sized silver bowl. The glittering artifact rushed forward to intercept the descending golden net. Before the two collided, the nascent soul hastily formed a spell seal, causing the bowl to self-destruct. Silver light burst outward as countless fragments slammed into the lightning net, causing it to tremble faintly. Seizing that fleeting moment, the nascent soul executed an instantaneous movement technique. A flash of yellow light flared, and it vanished without a trace, only to reappear 100 meters away. In the next instant, it transformed into a brilliant streak of yellow light and disappeared into the distance. The golden net fell a step short, allowing its prey to escape. Han Li frowned slightly, casting a glance in the direction the nascent soul had fled, but he made no move to pursue. Such decisiveness is rare. A woman dressed in white suddenly spoke. She appeared beside him, holding the old man's storage pouch in her hand. To preserve his life, he even destroyed his own natal magic treasure. Han Li snorted coldly. Mere luck. With both the thunderstorm wings and the celestial ice flames at his disposal, that Moulan spell warrior had been nearly his equal. It seemed that killing a high-grade spell warrior who was on guard was more difficult than he had anticipated. He turned his gaze toward Silvermoon. Still, your movement technique has clearly improved. You were able to conceal yourself even at such close range. Silvermoon smiled faintly. The four-pupiled fox excels at concealment. With my recent breakthroughs, as long as Master occupies their attention, I can strike with ease. Good. Hanli nodded indifferently. Though Silvermoon was merely his tool spirit, she was the only other being who knew the secret of the small bottle. Yet at some unknown point, he had begun to sense a faint veil of mystery surrounding her. After exchanging a few more words, Han Li turned his attention to the battlefield. As his spiritual sense swept outward, the chaos gradually became clear. At the highest reaches of the sky, 6 late-stage Nascent Soul cultivators were locked in fierce combat. Below them, the battlefield was divided into 3 distinct fronts. The first consisted of countless small-scale skirmishes. Cultivators and spell warriors clashed in groups ranging from dozens to thousands, battling at close quarters. Both sides were highly disciplined and fought with seamless coordination, making them far more formidable together than alone. As a result, neither side could easily overwhelm the other, and the battles remained deadlocked. The second involved elite individuals fighting against overwhelming numbers. These cultivators and spell warriors possessed extraordinary cultivation bases. But such battles were far more perilous. One misstep could result in annihilation of both body and soul. The final front consisted of figures wielding unfathomable techniques and terrifying treasures, locked in tense confrontation. The most eye-catching among them was a vast black mist drifting through the air, emitting piercing ghostly wails. Any spell warrior caught within it immediately plummeted from the sky as a lifeless corpse. Wherever the mist drifted nearby, spell warriors instinctively kept their distance, fear etched into their faces. Behind the ghostly mist, however, several fearless spell warriors relentlessly assaulted it with wind and lightning-attributed spells and magical treasures. Each strike scattered a portion of the mist yet within it. Cultivators continuously waved banner-shaped magic tools, summoning more black fog without pause. This left the Moulan spell warriors at a complete loss. Elsewhere, more than a dozen Nascent Soul cultivators were locked in battle with a 300-meter-tall stone giant. Though seemingly formed from ordinary stone, its sheer size was overwhelming. Each movement sent countless stones raining down like a deadly storm. Even under the protection of formation spells, the cultivators dared not receive its attacks directly. Adding to the danger, several spell warriors stood atop the giant's head and shoulders, assisting it with their own powerful treasures. There were also scattered battles where cultivators and spell warriors clashed using magnificent treasures, whose power far surpassed that of ordinary ancient artifacts. These sect and tribe-protecting treasures greatly broadened Han Li's horizons. Though Han Li had emerged from the blood barrier, he did not immediately join the fray. Instead, he observed from afar, remaining roughly a kilometer away from the nearest battlefield. Even so, 2 Moulan sages soon broke free from combat and charged straight toward him with overwhelming momentum. They had witnessed Han Li ruthlessly slay a spell warrior of equal rank in an instant. Though uncertain of victory, they could not allow such a nascent soul cultivator to roam freely. The devastation he could cause would be unimaginable. "Come," Han Li said coldly to Silvermoon. He turned and flew toward a nearby blood barrier. Silvermoon smiled strangely as she followed close behind. An azure streak of light flashed above the blood-red barrier, only to be struck moments later by a lightning bead. In the next instant, Han Li vanished once more, reappearing before another blood barrier. His plan was clear: free the trapped nascent soul cultivators, first then decide his next move. A thunderous explosion rang out. A streak of scarlet light burst forth from a lie opening in the barrier. Laughter echoed as a voice rang out. "I, shattered soul, owe you my deepest gratitude for this life-saving favor." The scarlet light faded, revealing a grey-robed cultivator. Taoist shattered soul. Han Li was mildly surprised. It was the first person he had rescued. "Fellow Taoist, block those 2 for me, while I rescue the others," Han Li transmitted quickly through divine sense. "Ah, so it is fellow Taoist Han." Shock flashed across the grey-robed cultivator's face before he nodded decisively. "Your kindness will never be forgotten. Leave them to me." In a streak of white light, he surged forward to intercept the 2 Moulan sages. Watching this through his spiritual sense, Han Li smiled inwardly and immediately turned toward yet another blood barrier. With a flick of his hand, an azure light shot forth once more. But at that moment, the unexpected occurred. Grey light flickered atop the blood barrier, revealing a tall man clad in embroidered robes. He stared solemnly at the incoming lightning bead. Han Li's heart jolted. How had this person concealed himself so perfectly without leaving even the slightest trace? When Han Li swept his spiritual sense over him, his expression finally changed, true alarm surfacing in his eyes. With a sweep of his spiritual sense, Han Li discovered that the tall man in embroidered robes actually possessed late nascent soul cultivation. He was a Moulan Divine Sage, but hadn't it been said that the Moulan only possessed 3 divine sages? Before Han Li could fully recover from his shock, the embroidered-robed man had already stretched out his hand, grasping toward the incoming lightning bead through empty air. Startled, Han Li hastily pointed at the lightning bead, attempting to redirect it. But it was already too late. A gigantic azure hand suddenly materialized in mid-air, descending with overwhelming force. It seized the lightning bead, firmly locking it in place, as if grasping an object within its palm. Han Li's brows twitched. Without hesitation, he formed a rapid incantation gesture with both hands. The restrictions within the lightning bead detonated instantly. A violent eruption of golden and azure light burst forth from within the massive hand. The explosion tore everything apart, scattering both the lightning bead and the azure hand into nothingness. The embroidered-robed man gave a cold snort. Azure light flickered faintly across his face before his expression returned to calm indifference. Han Li remained where he was, silently staring at him. After studying Han Li for a moment, the embroidered-robed man finally spoke. "Are you Han Li, the cultivator who wields the golden lightning bamboo?" Han Li did not answer. Instead, he asked coldly, "The Moulan should only have 3 divine sages. Who are you?" The embroidered-robed man replied evenly, "Good. Since you know what a divine sage is and can still remain calm, it seems you are indeed the one divine sage Zhong mentioned. My name is Zhong, the Fourth Moulan Divine Sage." "The Fourth Divine Sage," Han Li sneered. "That's the first time I've ever heard of such a thing. Regardless, the manifested hand you used earlier was unable to restrain my lightning bead. It seems you haven't been at the late nascent soul stage for very long, and your cultivation has yet to fully stabilize." His tone was unrestrained and sharp. As he spoke, Han Li casually pointed at the sword lights hovering before him. They converged, weaving together into a sheet of azure radiance that formed a protective barrier around his body. "It is true that I have only entered late nascent soul for a few years," Zhong replied coldly. "But do you really believe you can match me? Your arrogance is truly excessive." "If you were alone, perhaps," a woman's voice suddenly rang out. Han Li's heart lifted in relief. "Who is that?" Zhong's expression darkened, a sharp gleam flashing through his eyes. "I never expected that after 100 years apart, fellow Taoist Tian would actually break through to late nascent soul," the woman said calmly. "You've truly surprised me. Let us see whether your strength has kept pace with your cultivation." As her words fell, white light flashed. A beauty clad in red robes appeared in mid-air, gazing coldly at Zhong. Zhong's expression stirred slightly. "So it's Lady Feng. But you came alone, aren't you? Afraid something might happen to Long Han. You and your husband have always fought side by side." "There's no need to worry," Lady Feng replied coolly. "My husband is protected by over 1,000 cultivators. Even if you divine sages attacked personally, you wouldn't be able to touch him. That is why I came to test the strength of the 4th divine sage. Fellow Taoist Han, go ahead and rescue the others." As she spoke, she lifted her arm and extended her fingers. A crystalline bottle filled with flames appeared in her palm. Even before she activated it, crimson light flared as raging fire surged within. "The fire spirit bottle." Zhong's expression turned solemn. Meanwhile, Han Li did not hesitate. He immediately departed in a streak of azure light. Zhong's gaze sharpened. He flicked his wrist and tossed a spirit beast pouch into the air. In a flash of rainbow light, 2 identical winged beasts burst forth. They possessed the bodies of azure eagles, but bore fierce tiger heads. Heavenly tigers. Han Li cried out in alarm upon recognizing them. These were exceedingly rare flying beasts, native to the Moulan Plains, capable of wielding both wind and earth-attributed techniques. Though their cultivation was only at the late core formation stage, their combat strength was formidable and not to be underestimated. The 2 heavenly tigers let out thunderous roars and spread their wings. In flashes of azure light, they vanished and reappeared instantly beside Han Li, their eyes gleaming as they locked onto him like prey. At that moment, the light surrounding Han Li's body dissipated, and he came to an abrupt halt. Instantaneous movement. Han Li cursed inwardly. He had long heard rumors of demon beasts capable of such techniques, but he hadn't expected to encounter them here. Escaping from these two would not be easy. Tianzhong did not stop there. In a blur of motion, an identical figure split off from his body. The doppelganger moved with lifelike precision, indistinguishable in posture and aura. The only difference was that it was completely enveloped in shimmering azure light, its form dazzling yet hollow as if illusory. External incarnation. Lady Feng cried out in alarm, her expression turning strange. Though she was not surprised that Tianzhong possessed such a technique, she had never seen one so peculiar. The azure light incarnation shot straight toward Han Li, completely ignoring Lady Feng. She was already fully occupied with Tianzhong himself. Tianzhong spat out a sparkling rainbow wheel and sneered. "This way I can properly test both of you." With a gesture, the wheel transformed into a rainbow mist and surged toward Lady Feng. Her expression grew solemn. She struck the fire spirit bottle with a spell seal. The bottle trembled violently before erupting in brilliant red light. Countless threads of raging flame poured forth, writhing as if alive. At times they scattered, at times they gathered until they suddenly surged together, transforming into several massive crimson serpents that lunged toward the rainbow mist. Hearing the explosion behind him, Han Li knew without looking that Tianzhong and Lady Feng had begun their clash. But he had no time to spare. Before him stood the two heavenly tigers and the azure doppelganger. As long as they remained freeing, the trapped cultivators would be impossible. With the attention of two legendary figures drawn elsewhere, this part of the battlefield would not receive further reinforcement. Han Li had originally intended to give Silvermoon several lightning beads and have her sneak off to rescue the others, but now there was no such opportunity. He would first have to defeat the three enemies before him. With that resolve, Han Li reached to his waist and released his own spirit beast pouch. A vast swarm of glistening gold-devouring beetles burst forth, swirling into a massive golden cloud above him. Clutching a hand seal, Han Li vanished into the swarm. A loud buzzing echoed as azure light flashed repeatedly from within. The golden swarm split into three distinct groups, each surging toward a different opponent. Gold-devouring beetles, the azure incarnation snorted coldly, its voice identical to Tianzhong's. If they were fully mature, perhaps they would pose a threat. The two heavenly tigers, however, spread their wings and retreated more than 70 meters upon seeing the beetles' fear flashing in their eyes. The azure incarnation opened its mouth, firing three bowl-thick beams of azure light, one toward each beetle swarm. With every beam released, its body darkened slightly, even shrinking by several inches. The beams struck their targets with uncanny precision. Three spherical barriers of azure light, each 3 meters wide, materialized, trapping the beetle swarms inside. Alarmed, Han Li commanded the beetles to gnaw at the barriers. But moments later, his expression darkened. The barriers were extraordinarily durable. Moreover, they were formed entirely from pure wood-attributed spirit qi, making them capable of restraining the gold-devouring beetles for a considerable time. With the combined threat of the azure incarnation's restrictive techniques and the heavenly tiger's instantaneous movement, Han Li immediately sensed how difficult this battle would be. Had the Fourth Divine Sage been specially prepared to deal with him? As this thought arose, a chill crept into his heart. And indeed, his suspicion was not unfounded. When the Moulan High Echelon had convened earlier, they had already entrusted Tianzhong with the task of killing Han Li. Divine Sage Ju and the others had even provided him with heavenly tigers and several treasures specifically meant to restrain Han Li. Initially, the Moulan had not anticipated Han Li's involvement in the wagered battles. But when Han Li suddenly reappeared, slaughtering spell warriors and destroying a sage's physical body, Tianzhong immediately took notice. Whether it was to prevent him from freeing the trapped cultivators or to complete the exchange with the yin-sifting sect, Han Li had no choice but to fight. What Tianzhong had not expected, however, was that Long Han would risk sending his wife, Feng Bing, to assist Han Li once Han Li broke free. If Han Li succeeded in rescuing the trapped cultivators, the tide of war would shift decisively in Heavenly South's favor. Seeing that the gold-devouring beetles had yet to escape their confinement, Han Li's mood grew heavy. At that moment, the two heavenly tigers regained their courage upon realizing the beetles were restrained. In rapid flashes of azure light, the two spirit beasts vanished once more. Han Li responded with a cold smile. He flicked his sleeve, summoning a blue shield before him. At the same time, he gestured toward the sword swarm ahead. Sword chi surged violently as the blades revolved around him, forming an impenetrable defense. In the next instant, azure light flashed beside Han Li as the two heavenly tigers reappeared. They opened their mouths, each spitting out a blinding orb of light. Han Li's expression turned stern. He split his sword lights into two streams that shot forward. Two muffled explosions rang out as the orbs were shattered effortlessly. The sword lights continued onward, sweeping toward the spirit beasts. Cunning gleamed in the heavenly tiger's eyes. They instantly teleported away, narrowly avoiding the attack. Enraged, Han Li was about to command the sword lights to pursue, but at that moment, the azure incarnation launched its attack. As Han Li became fully entangled with the Doppelganger, both Long Han and the shriveled old spell warrior issued simultaneous commands. Their armies moved. 7 white-haired Nascent Soul cultivators flew out from behind Long Han, expressions calm and composed, each wielding an ancient treasure. On the opposing side, a troop of Nascent Soul spell warriors took to the sky, the woman surnamed Li among them. At the shriveled old spell warrior's signal, she carefully retrieved a bronze lantern from her storage pouch and held it firmly in her hand. The woman surnamed Le sent the ancient lantern soaring into the air. Opening her mouth, she released a trace of white nascent flame, igniting the lantern. At the same time, she formed an incantation gesture with both hands in the shape of a blooming lotus and softly chanted an obscure mantra. A white lotus manifested beneath her feet, slowly unfurling its petals. Her movements were fluid and graceful, so ethereal that she appeared almost detached from the mortal world. Her incantation carried an indescribably ancient aura, as though it had echoed since the dawn of time. With a sudden tremor, the bronze lantern shuddered and mirages surged forth from its surface. In the blink of an eye, 8 identical lanterns materialized. The 9 lanterns began to revolve, first spinning in place, then separating into 3 distinct rings that slowly circled one another in a mysterious pattern. The woman surnamed Le flicked her finger, striking each lantern with different spell seals. Azure light burst forth brilliantly as 9 tongues of flame rose simultaneously from the lanterns. They converged at the center, fusing into a head-sized azure flame. She then spat out a mist of blood essence toward the flame. The azure fire swallowed it, instantly flaring violently as its aura surged to terrifying levels. Moments later, a clear, piercing cry echoed through the heavens. From within the flames emerged a foot-long azure bird. Its form was exquisite. Long azure feathers shimmered like flowing silk, and its jewel-like eyes burned a brilliant fire red. The peacock-like bird cast an arrogant glance around its surroundings before tilting its neck to look down at the woman surnamed Le. It then spoke to her in an ancient tongue, one that had not been heard since antiquity. The woman bowed deeply 3 times toward the bird, then replied through voice transmission. The shriveled old spell warrior watched the scene with a grave expression. After the exchange ended, spell warrior Lu ceased speaking in the ancient language. She flipped her hand and produced a fragrant pink pearl. Upon seeing it, the azure peacock revealed an expression of delight. It inhaled sharply, drawing the pearl into its beak amid a swirl of azure mist. Crackling sounds rang out as a halo of light enveloped the bird. Azure flames surged wildly around its body. With a sharp, piercing cry, the bird transformed its body, swelling into a colossal flaming form as it spread its wings. In an instant, fire-attributed spiritual chi flooded the sky for over 5 kilometers. Cultivators and spell warriors who relied on fire-attributed techniques felt their power suddenly weaken, their expressions changing in alarm. The fire spirit chi of heaven and earth surged like rivers, returning to the sea, pouring endlessly into the azure bird's body. As it absorbed more and more energy, its form expanded further, the flames around it growing ever brighter. All cultivators within 5 kilometers froze, staring in shock at the blazing firebird. The temperature skyrocketed instantly. Even protected by magic treasures, many felt as though they were standing beside a roaring furnace. In contrast, the spell warriors erupted with joy. It's the sacred bird. Sage Lo has summoned the sacred bird. This battle is ours. Several spell warriors shouted excitedly as they launched even fiercer attacks against the cultivators. A rare smile appeared on the shriveled old spell warrior's face as he beheld the sacred bird's might. Meanwhile, when the black-robed woman of the yin-sifting sect saw the azure peacock, a strange look flickered across her face. She then spoke calmly. Only a sacred bird at the deity transformation stage can command the fire spirits of heaven and earth. No wonder it is your most treasured weapon. However powerful as it is when it first emerged, it was merely at the early nascent soul stage. Even after absorbing all that fire spirit chi, it barely reached late nascent soul. This must be a kind of incarnation. Otherwise, the Mulan would never have lost so much territory to the soaring tribes. The shriveled old man glanced at her before replying evenly, "Lady Lu truly has sharp eyes. The sacred bird's true body is not present, but that is of little consequence. Even late nascent soul cultivators are no match for it." Lady Lu nodded. "That is true. The ability to absorb such vast worldly spiritual power is something only beings at the deity transformation stage possess. Even this ability alone renders it nearly invincible." The shriveled old man chuckled softly and said nothing more. Meanwhile, the 7 white-haired cultivators, who had been striking the spell warriors with their ancient treasures, suddenly spotted the enormous bird blazing like an azure sun in the sky. All of them were momentarily stunned. The grey-robed old man leading them wore a grim expression. "This is bad. That demon beast is not something ordinary cultivators can withstand. We must stop it." Another old man replied with fierce resolve. "Then what are we waiting for? Let us use the 7 treasures of great truths and destroy it. That demon bird does not belong to this world. We cannot allow it to cast any spells." As soon as he finished speaking, he transformed into a streak of yellow light and charged straight toward the azure sun. The others followed immediately. The grey-robed leader hesitated for a moment, then sighed and followed after them. By the time the 7 cultivators approached, the Mulan sacred bird had finished absorbing the surrounding fire spirit ki. Its body had grown to over 80 meters tall. It gazed down at them with pure hostility gleaming in its eyes. With a malicious shriek, it spread its wings and unleashed a storm of fist-sized azure fireballs. Before the cultivators could even begin their assault, a wave of scorching wind washed over them. Their bodies felt parched instantly and their hearts trembled. Under the dense rain of fireballs, the long-eyebrowed old man slapped his storage pouch and flung out a crystalline ice net. In a flash of white light, the fireballs were captured. The old man smiled only for his face to pale an instant later. The ice net ruptured, almost immediately dissolved completely by the azure flames. The fireballs fused into a towering pillar of flame and surged toward them with overwhelming force. "Go!" the grey-robed leader shouted as he released his own treasure, a milky white ancient mirror. It spun once in mid-air, releasing a white barrier that barely managed to block the advancing flames. But seeing the ice net destroyed so effortlessly, the others felt their hearts sink. Ordinary magic treasures were clearly useless against the azure flames. "Quick, use the devil isolating formation seal that demon bird," the leader roared. At once, the 7 cultivators commanded their ancient treasures. A red club yellow halberd medallion, small cauldron, jade fan and scepter shot into the air, surrounding the massive bird. Clear ringing sounds echoed as the ancient mirror transformed into a radiant rainbow, forming a multicolored barrier that both withstood the flames and trapped the sacred bird inside. The azure bird screeched in fury. Its beak glowed with dense azure radiance as it pecked downward. Instantly, a tall old man felt his medallion tremble violently. With a deafening crash, it was knocked back and sent flying straight toward him. Panicking, he struck the medallion with multiple spell seals, but it only paused briefly before continuing its deadly course. Just as it was about to strike him, a figure suddenly appeared behind him, placing both hands on his shoulders and pouring an immense surge of spiritual chi into his body. "Cast the technique at once. I'll lend you my strength," the grey-robed leader shouted coldly. Roused, the tall old man formed 5 spell seals in a single breath, finally halting the medallion. Both men exhaled in relief. Meanwhile, dread filled the hearts of the remaining cultivators. They became even more vigilant, pushing their ancient treasures to the limit. Multicolored lights intertwined, barely blocking the relentless strikes of the bird's radiant beak. Not far away, spell warrior Le glanced toward the battle before turning her gaze back to the ancient lantern. After a moment of hesitation, she remained where she was. Until the lantern oil burned out completely, she had to guard it. Abandoning it would spell disaster. The shriveled old spell warrior was surprised to see the cultivators restraining the sacred bird, but he did not seem concerned. He trusted completely in the deity his people had worshipped for tens of thousands of years. No matter how powerful the 7 treasures were, they could not match the sacred bird. Before the lantern oil was exhausted, it would surely slaughter the 7 cultivators. These 7 were the Heavenly South's ultimate pillars. With that thought, the shriveled old man shifted his gaze toward Long Han, who stood before an army of over 1,000 cultivators, his expression dark. I never expected the Mulan to be capable of summoning such a powerful demon bird, Long Han muttered grimly. Then raising his voice, he commanded coldly, "Release the spirit phantoms at once. Use the opening the 7 great truths cultivators have given us strike decisively." Following his order, dozens of pitch-black birds burst forth from the cultivator ranks. At the same time, several cultivators retrieved spirit talismans and slapped them onto statues. Green light flashed as the talismans merged into the statues, and the cultivators immediately sat down motionless. Moments later, chilling blue light shone from the eyes of the phantom birds. They extended their claws and dove toward the spell warriors below. As for the cultivators who had used the talismans, their heads slowly drooped as if they had fallen asleep. Seeing this, a trace of mockery appeared on the shriveled old man's face. Turning to the black-robed woman, he said politely, "The time has come for your esteemed self to deliver the killing blow. Lady Lu, release your copper-armored corpses. Victory is within reach." Satisfaction flickered across his face. Lady Lu's eyes shimmered briefly before she replied calmly, "Brother Ju, there is no need to rush. Let us wait a little longer. Most of my sect's copper-armored corpses are only at the foundation establishment stage. Once the Heavenly South cultivators exhaust themselves, the corpses will easily rout them." The shriveled old man frowned, hesitated briefly, then nodded. "Very well. As long as you do not change your mind, we can wait a little longer." He found her reasoning difficult to refute.